Hi, and welcome back to Ivy English. I'm Karen.
And I'm Chris Gorski.
Today is April 22nd, and today we are going to talk about the calming influence of daily rituals. So I want to ask right off, do you have some daily rituals, Chris?
Absolutely. And what I appreciated this article for is that it made me more cognizant of the rituals that I do have. As I knew I had some, but it gave me a little bit of a meta-knowledge, M-E-T-A, meaning kind of understanding of yourself.
A more awareness of what you do.
Absolutely. It made me think more about them because I knew we would talk about them.
Yeah.
And, well, I guess while you're asking me, one ritual that I perform every time I come to Ivy is I have a certain music playlist because music has long been the stabilizing force of my life. It sets my mood that I need to have in a given environment. If I'm going somewhere somber or somewhere late night, I'm going to listen to something soft. Coming here, I like to have a little more energy, but not too much.
Yeah.
So I have a certain playlist that sets my mental mood. Maybe it just sends out chemicals in my brain, and it sets my attitude in a positive way. If I'm feeling down, I will listen to it. If I'm feeling too high, I'll listen to something calming. And that ritual sets me in the mental place that I need to be to give a good performance.
And then your brain associates that kind of music with this thing you're going to do, so it just naturally prepares you automatically.
Yeah. I've been doing this since I've been 14. I've been doing it my whole life, and it's always been an effective tool for me. This is my ritual that I use to set myself for my day.
Can you just give one example of a song you use before you come to Ivy?
What was I listening to today? Once I was feeling a little tired, so I needed a little bit more. So what the heck is the name of this song? I think it's called Sorry by a guy named Hala, H-A-L-A.
Goodness.
And it's a little bit upbeat, and it's a little bit fun. It's got a great guitar riff on it, and it's kind of upbeat and fun and singable. And I'm sure people would have yelled at me on the MRT for singing, but I was jamming.
I'll have to check that one out. Okay, so our title again is The Calming Influence of Daily Rituals. And let's jump right into our first paragraph. Whether you realize it or not, you probably practice certain rituals every day of your life. First, to clarify, when we say rituals, we do not mean simple daily tasks like brushing your teeth or washing your dishes. Those are routines. The difference between rituals and routines is the attitude behind the action. A routine is a task performed out of necessity, and a person can do it without really thinking about it. A ritual, on the other hand, is far more purposeful. The purpose can vary from health to relaxation to entertainment. When a person is engaged in a ritual, it's more about focusing on the experience than just accomplishing it.
Rituals not only help us become more aware of the present moment, but they can also reduce anxiety. Studies have shown that people about to perform a difficult task tend to have lower levels of anxiety if they perform a ritual before the task. This is because the repeated performance of a certain action can convince the human brain that everything is normal and predictable, even under uncertain circumstances. In other words, rituals bring a sense of stability. This is why many famous sports people have well-known pre-competition rituals. Spanish tennis legend Rafael Nadal, for example, has an on-court ritual of positioning his water bottles in a certain way. He states that it helps him gain a sense of order in the chaos of high-level competition.
With the calming effects of rituals, it is no wonder that so many people perform them every single day. Why not try out a new ritual yourself? Popular rituals which people perform every day include taking a walk, gardening, taking a bath before bed, or performing a series of stretches facing the sun. Okay?
Not for me, but...
Mine are slightly different, and I'll talk about them later if you're interested.
I want to hear these. I shared mine. We have to hear yours.
But let's sort out this article first. What is exactly a ritual and how does it differ, for example, from a routine? So back to the beginning, whether you realize it or not, you probably practice certain rituals every day of your life. Chris just said that reading this article helped him become a little more aware of these things that he did anyway, so he probably felt more in the moment now when he was doing them?
Very much coming in. I'm getting myself ready, and after I have that music, in fact, I take my headphones off almost reluctantly sometimes because I want to keep that emotion, that feeling, that sense of stability as long as I can right up to the broadcast. I really do, but it's very antisocial also, so I try not to do that, and I just kind of keep the thought in my head. The music is kind of playing in the background, so to speak.
That's really interesting because I never knew that about you, but I've seen that same look on many people's faces. When they have to take out their earplugs, you can, or not earplugs, earphones, you can see that look of reluctance in their face. They really don't want to do it, but somebody just talked to me. I have to answer.
Well, it's not annoyance. It's just that I don't want to be rude to people. Personally, if this was like really high performance, almost as if we're going to play a world-level sports competition, I would have my headphones zoned in, all the way until the moment I stepped on the field.
Wow.
But because this is not literally millions of dollars on the line, I'm okay. I don't need to be that hypercharged for the moment.
Okay. I have very different habits with using headphones. Usually I'm listening to an audiobook on the MRT. There's nothing else to do, and I don't even have to look at my phone. I just listen.
Right.
So for me, that works. Okay, let's move on. First, to clarify, when we say rituals, we do not mean simple daily tasks like brushing your teeth or washing your dishes. So right away, the article is making clear what a ritual is and how it differs from a routine. You have to, well, I guess you don't have to brush your teeth. You can choose not to, but mostly we do. When I don't brush my teeth, I've got this film in the morning that tells me, you got to brush your teeth before you go to bed. So we have these habits for a reason, and we don't have to think much about them once we get started, even if we're lazy about starting. Or washing your dishes, they will pile up fast, so that's one thing I do not do is leave dishes out. I wash them right after I eat. So these are just things you have to do in order to keep a normal, healthy body and a reasonably tidy house. That's not what we're talking about. And the next sentence is, those are routines. So a routine is something that you do over and over because you have to, and you don't think that much about it. Doesn't give you any huge sense of pleasure, probably. It's not that special to you.
This is a very mechanical way of writing, and I don't mean that as a criticism here, that we only have an article with so many words on a given page that you don't have time for a long explanation. We have, here's a definition, it's A, not B, and personally, I really appreciated the defining the parameters, the area in which we're going to discuss today. I thought it was done very effectively in a very short space.
Exactly. You know right away what we're talking about and what we are not talking about.
There's no question.
And then you can start analyzing answers you might have given and thinking, oh, is this a routine or is this a ritual? Next sentence, the difference between rituals and routines is the attitude behind the action. Now we're getting into the meat of the difference because by this sentence, where it says those are routines, I thought, there are a bunch of things I thought might have been rituals, but I guess not. What is the difference? So right away, it tries to make you focus on what the big difference is. And it says it is in your attitude, how you feel about what you're doing when you're doing it. The next sentence, a routine is a task performed out of necessity, and a person can do it without really thinking about it. We've already explained this, but I recommend that you memorize this sentence because it's a beautiful sentence structure. You can use it for a lot of things. It's performed out of necessity, something you have to do, and you can do it without really thinking about it. We can say that about a lot of things we do because they're repeated over and over again. We don't think about them. We do them without really thinking about them. Like getting into the MRT, you swipe your card, you walk towards the platform. A lot of that you don't really have to think. You've done it many times.
Kind of considering it, my ritual is also somewhat routine because you asked me, well, what was I listening to? And I absolutely listened to my Hype playlist, HYPE. Hype music is the music that you use to get excited for any given action or maybe to even calm you down. And I definitely listened to it, and I listened to a lot, and I had trouble recalling what song it was. Routines often become invisible. You don't see them. You might not even remember doing them. You know there's no dishes in the sink, so you must have washed dishes.
Right.
But I don't remember doing them.
Exactly.
And I don't think someone broke into my house just to wash them for me.
It happened to me this morning because after I washed my face, I put some moisturizer on. and I was getting dressed, and I thought, did I put my moisturizer on? So I open up the jar, and I go, my face is already pretty moisturized. I think I already did. Yeah, so this morning it happened. That was a routine.
I personally have a lot of value in making as many rituals into routines as possible. I don't know if people find this an odd thing, but I want to automate as many processes as possible in my mind. I want as many things in my classroom to be as automatic as possible.
That's absolutely what you should do in language learning.
I think so.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Push it to the point where it's automatic. Think, if you stop studying English today and you don't think in English at all for the next 30 years, do you think you're going to forget how to spell your name? Probably not.
Yeah.
It's because you're so overlearned that you've mastered it. And I find real value in my everyday life doing as many things as possible to push them to that point, because it gives me more mental energy to concentrate on things that matter to me now.
I was just going to say that, so that they will do a lot of things the right way just because it comes out automatically. Right. They have brain left over to think about interesting, creative things. Our next sentence, a ritual, on the other hand, is far more purposeful. Now, that follows up on what we already know. So if it's not something that we do automatically without thinking about it, and that's a routine, it must be the opposite. If it's a real ritual, that means we do it more mindfully and with purpose.
I like that word mindful here. Mindful, purposeful, those are good words. I wrote the synonym goal-oriented, but hearing you saying mindful and purposeful, those are a lot more, those are words with a lot more, I would say, oomph, so as not to repeat the word mindful here. They have a certain feeling to them that goal-oriented doesn't.
In fact, this is something you should work toward in your own life, especially for important things. Start doing them more mindfully, because our time on earth is limited. It's good to get some boring things over with by not thinking about them. But for things that matter, be more mindful, appreciate every minute, because our minutes are limited. Yeah. And your enjoyment actually can be increased if you're paying more attention. The purpose can vary from health to relaxation to entertainment. Now, these are all things that are really important to us. So health, it may involve an exercise that you do or a set of exercises that you do. For me, they can be a routine, but if you do them mindfully, you do them better. I found when I'm doing them as a routine, I just kind of flop around. And then I realized if anybody was watching me, they'd say, are you really exercising? You're just going through the motions. When I do them mindfully, I use more energy. My muscles are firmer. It's much better to do it mindfully, and you enjoy it more. You get a little more tired, too. For relaxation, as long as you're relaxing and this is your pleasure time, make sure you feel that pleasure. And entertainment, don't just mindlessly watch TV or videos or anything. Really enjoy what's going on and pay attention to what they're saying. You can probably learn something interesting. You can improve your English if you pay more attention and it's in English, for example. When a person is engaged in a ritual, it's more about focusing on the experience than just accomplishing it. And again, this brings us back to mindfulness. Enjoy every minute.
So the synonym I wrote for engaged is performing. You might think to say do a ritual, but we don't say that in English. It's almost like commit a crime. We don't do crimes. We don't do rituals. We engage in rituals or perform rituals. And that's another good point we have in this line, that when we're performing a ritual, it's about the experience rather than saying, I did it. There's a lot of things that when we are goal-oriented, the idea is to finish it. But the ritual itself is about preparing and setting up for what comes next. It's not actually about getting it done. It's a very good point.
Yes, and I will share one of my morning rituals that I do every morning that I don't have to rush off to somewhere else. And it's something I truly savor and enjoy. So after I've finished my exercises, I make my breakfast. And I think this is true of a lot of people. Coffee is a ritual. I sit down with my hot coffee and my fruit and nuts, and I set up my book on a stand, and I read a story from Strange Stories from a Chinese Studio by Pu Songling that I've told you about before. I love the stories. I love the coffee. I love savoring the coffee. Gulping it down, there is no point. If I have to gulp, I'll put it in the refrigerator, save it for later, and warm it up. I don't want to waste that enjoyment of that cup of coffee. And I don't want to waste the enjoyment of the story. I want to wait till I can enjoy it. And then the fruit and nuts is just part of it. So that is my morning ritual, and I love it.
That's funny. I have such a different attitude towards coffee. Coffee very much is a means to an end to me. I like the way it tastes, but very much I am not afraid to just shotgun a cup of coffee or even, honestly, a can of coffee as it's sitting next to me. When we shotgun a drink, that means drink it very, very quickly. If I'm a little tired going into class and knowing I have 30, 9-year-olds, I'm going to drink a cup of coffee really fast because I want that jump, because me being able to match their energy will allow me to effectively manage them better. So for me, it is very much a tool rather than a ritual, although my mother very much falls in line with you. She very much enjoyed her morning coffee.
I ration myself to only 1 cup a day, so I darn well am going to enjoy it. I'm not getting another one. In most cases, very rarely I would, but I don't want to be keyed up. Sometimes I get jittery. I start shaking.
Sure.
I cannot drink that much coffee, but I like it, so I am going to enjoy it in the morning when my brain is the most alert. Okay, so that's me. Let's go on.
Let's continue. Rituals not only help us become more aware of the present moment, but they can also reduce anxiety.
And I really agree with that, because when I'm involved in that ritual, I kind of leave this world and I enter the world of maybe 17th century China and ghosts and fox spirits.
This is interesting. Yeah, this is the place you want to go. It's
because the writer of these stories has a very deep understanding of human psychology. He expresses it through these supernatural beings and events, but it's all about the crazy things we do because we're human.
Let's continue. Yeah. Studies have shown that people about to perform a difficult task tend to have lower levels of anxiety if they perform a ritual before the task.
Right. The one thing that happens with me is the ritual will stretch out because it's so enjoyable. And when I finally get down to my task, I realize I spent a lot of time reading this ghost story.
All of this is leading into me having a very specific idea that they're explaining here. But I want to wait till our next line before I reveal it.
Okay, so having a ritual means that you feel in control, you feel pleasure, you feel things are going the way they are supposed to. So if you're kind of nervous about getting all your work done, this may calm you down and kind of center you and ground you. If it grounds you, it makes you feel like you're on solid ground.
Our next sentence says, this is because the repeated performance of a certain action can convince the human brain that everything is normal and predictable, even under uncertain circumstances.
Which is why you try to keep things normal when you've had a big upset in your life. For me, we had a terrible family situation once. I was miserable. I was traumatized, but I went to work as usual every day, and that helped me get through it.
So that's a very good point. That is a very good reason to continue forward.
Yeah.
When I read this, the image in my mind is the reason we perform certain rituals, even small things before military battles, before war, that these rituals that you've been performing have 2 goals. Number 1, to reduce anxiety, as we've been seeing. And number 2, to reinforce the social cohesion that rituals often create in places like churches and the military. You're performing actions you normally would never do anywhere else. And if you were to look at them from an objective alien position, meaning outside of these groups, these actions are almost bizarre. Think about the military, the way everybody folds their bed in a precise way, the way they march, the chants. All of them are about breaking down the old structure, creating a new structure that you belong. And these rituals that you perform day in and day out identify you as part of this group and prepare you for the difficult things that you may you may face, including your very own death.
Attention.
Yeah.
And then you know you're in that space.
That's right.
Okay.
Let's continue to our next sentence. In other words, rituals bring a sense of stability.
Which is really important when things are going kind of crazy in your life or there's any kind of instability out there. Your rituals will help you feel stability.
Let's continue to our next sentence. This is why many famous sports people have well-known pre-competition rituals.
And we'll hear some examples now, or an example.
Spanish tennis legend Rafael Nadal, for example, has an on-court ritual of positioning his water bottles in a certain way.
Now, we're probably not thinking of water bottles when we're thinking of a tennis competition, but I guess you need water. So if he has them set in a certain way, then things probably feel under control.
He states that it helps him gain a sense of order in the chaos of high-level competition,
which is extremely stressful. Our last paragraph, with the calming effects of rituals, it is no wonder that so many people perform them every single day. Because they help us calm down, they have a really important function in our own emotional stability. Why not try out a new ritual yourself? Okay, that's a question for you. What maybe are you already doing? You may not need to add one. Just become aware of something you're already doing, sort of like what Chris was saying. Popular rituals, which people perform every day, include taking a walk, gardening, taking a bath before bed, or performing a series of stretches facing the sun.
This is very different than what I suggested. I mean, for me, music does the trick. And this reminds me of the maxim, the phrase, different strokes for different folks.
Really true.
So different strokes for different folks just means that everybody's a little bit different. And if it works for you to accomplish your goal, then that's acceptable so as long as it doesn't hurt other people. And you may want something calming, or you may need something to regulate your anxiety, or honestly, your kind of, what was the word you used? You used not jittery, but almost like too much pep. And that's often my problem, that I'll be over the top. And so I need something to regulate it almost, to show me my highs and show me my lows.
That's right. That's a good purpose of it. So give it some thought. What are you doing that can kind of keep you centered and grounded and focused and give you a sense of stability?
Know yourself.
That might be your own ritual. We have a few questions to answer here. First, according to the passage, which of the following is an example of a ritual?
And our answer is B. In addition to studying hard, I sleep with my notes under my pillow the night before the exam in order to get good grades through the process of osmosis.
Actually, I do something similar. When there is some work I haven't finished, I may put it on the bed next to me, but not under my pillow because I move around a lot. I don't want to squish the notes because it's often student work. I have to return to them. I don't want to destroy them.
Is that so if you suddenly wake up with inspiration?
No.
Okay, so you're not Paul McCartney.
No, I keep it far enough away so it doesn't disturb my sleep, but it certainly reminds me the next day. I don't do this often. I like to keep the bed clear and have a really restful sleep, but occasionally I'll do that when I really have to get something done. Okay, so that's the first one. Question 2.
Which word is the closest in meaning to stability in the second paragraph?
And the answer is D, security. Security is a sense of safety. And question 3, which of the following can be inferred about rituals? And the answer is
A, they are intentional actions. You wanted to do this.
And hopefully mindfully. You're aware when you're doing them. You're enjoying the process. You're mindful. And question 4.
How does the author conclude the passage?
The answer is letter B, by giving examples of popular rituals, which here are taking a walk, gardening, taking a bath before bed, or performing a series of stretches facing the sun. Well, not Chris's thing, but
different strokes for different
folks. Different strokes, that means just different activities, different things. That's it for today. What are your rituals? Give it some thought. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.